forget what his name is? Her two brothers. God knows I can't remember the names. No way! No way I forgot what his name is. The main character, whose name I definitely don't remember. Dang, what's his first name? What's her name? Why can't I remember? Wendell! God, that's his name. Hello, welcome to the Book Lab. Happy New Year. I'm your Book Lab partner, Anna, and today, because it is the new year, or it's January 3rd, but don't tell anyone that, I'm going to be ranking the 31 books that I read in 2025. I was originally just gonna do like 31 to 1, worst to best, except with 31 books, and literally over half of them are for school, 16 were for school, and 15 were for fun. I just have so many books, for some reason it was like impossible to put in like just a numerical order. So instead we're doing tiers, which just means I grouped books together based on like how much I enjoyed them, how much I remember them, and my favorites do have their own tier. So to start, I will just tell you the names of the tiers. The first tier, the bottom tier, is so few words. This doesn't necessarily mean that the books were bad. It basically just means I don't remember them, and really that just means it was books I read for school in the winter or spring at the start of the year, and that I just don't really remember them. I have like no in-depth thoughts. They're just like, cool, good, I read them, I think. Above that is an adequate amount of words. I do have thoughts, and those thoughts are fine, but I do remember. The difference between this and the previous tier is that I actually remember things about the adequate amount of words tier. Next is the largest group, plenty of good words, which are basically all the books that I gave 4 stars this year, or most of the books I gave 4 stars. I like chronically give books 4 stars. I mean, like, I just enjoy things, and that's fine. But I have a lot of books in this tier. And then the tier above that is extra words of praise. They're still 4 stars, but they stand out from the others, but they're also not 4.5 stars. So there's like 4 sparkling stars versus 4 regular stars, if that makes any sense. And then the top tier are 2 words, marry me. These are my favorites. These are the 4.5s and the 5.0 stars that I gave out this year. I feel pretty good about my reading this year. 31 books, that is the most amount of books I've ever read in a year, so I'm very proud of myself for that. Or the most amount of books I've read in a year since, like, I don't know, elementary school. I read so much in elementary school, but you know, middle grade books, they're short, pretty fast. I'm really proud that I read 31 books, even though, again, half of them were for school. So a lot of them you actually heard me talk about in my last video, talking about all the graphic novels and comics I read for this past fall semester. For a while, I was actually considering just doing this video as like my best of, so it would just be the last 2 or 3 tiers. But I've only talked about like half of the books that I read this year on the channel, and I want to talk about the books that I read over the spring and summer. So yeah, that's why I'm doing all of this. So without further ado, let's get into the bottom tier, which really just means 3 stars. Like, I mean, 2, 3 stars. I get in 3 was the lowest rating I gave anything this year. I don't try to read things that I think might be bad, and I generally enjoy most things I read. But anyway, in the so few words category, tier, whatever, the first book we have is The Tempest by William Shakespeare. It's one of Shakespeare's plays. It's about these people on an island. Honestly, couldn't tell you much more. I mean, I'm an English major, but I'm not like the Shakespeare variety of English major. I don't really care for Shakespeare. He's kind of whatever. I've never had an incredible experience with Shakespeare, I guess I'll say that. So I'm not like super attached to his work. The Tempest, it was fine. Honestly, I'd say that it might be the worst book I read this year just because I didn't enjoy it all that much. But like class discussions were fun, so there's that, yeah. After that is A Tempest by Amy Césaire, which is a reinterpretation of The Tempest, but written in the 60s, and Ariel and Caliban are actually explicitly Prospero's slaves, and Prospero's a lot worse. And it's just a lot easier to read. I mean, it was interesting, but I don't really remember all that much else. It was good. I liked it more than The Tempest, but it was whatever. After that is this bottom tier is all stuff I read for school, by the way. I read the two Tempests in the same class because they were like, you know, we're supposed to read them and like compare them and whatever. The next book in this tier is United States of Banana, the graphic novel. This is a graphic novel, obviously, that I read in the winter. I might appreciate it more now that I've taken 2 comic studies classes, but at the time I didn't have a super high appreciation for like comics and graphic novels. United States of Banana, I mean, even just aside from that, it's just a really weird book. It's like the author is one of the characters. Hamlet is also a character. Other like historical or fictional like figures are characters in this story. And it's just like lots of references to different things. It's like a political, philosophical debate about, like the independence of Puerto Rico, I think. I don't remember a whole lot. It was super weird. I didn't enjoy it all that much. It was certainly interesting, but I don't remember a whole lot, and I don't have any words really to talk about it. So yeah, there's that. And the last book in this category is Flying Couch, which is a graphic memoir I read in the spring for a Jewish literature class. This is about the author, her mother and her grandmother. They're all Jewish women. And it's just, I don't remember a whole lot about it other than the grandmother's story, which actually like recounts her experience of the Holocaust and living in Poland and stuff. That was the most interesting. I frankly don't remember much else other than in like sort of interesting conversations about Israel given the current state of the world right now. But otherwise it didn't stick out to me as much. I've read a million graphic memoirs this year, and it's the most forgettable one, but it's also the one that I read like 7 months ago. So yeah, those are the books in my bottom tier. So few words. Really just means they're 3 stars, but I forgot about them. The next tier is the adequate amount of words, which is 3 to 3.5 stars, except I actually remember what the books were about. Most of these books, they're just fine. I have very blasé feelings about them. The first book is a book that I actually didn't get to talk about that I read in June on an airplane. That is A Magical Girl Retires by Park Se-yeon. This is a really short novella, a Korean novella about the main character whose name I definitely don't remember. She starts out the book wanting to kill herself, but then this magical girl visits her and sort of saves her life and is like, no, you can't kill yourself. You are the one. You're going to be the magical girl to save us from, I don't remember what the evil thing is. I don't remember much of anything from this. I wanted it to be more fun, but it was just kind of boring. It was short, not much happened. There's a brief period where I remember the main character, she's working at like a corner store or something, like, you know, just trying to survive, and then they go to like a magical girl conference and I don't remember much of anything. There was nothing to hold on to in this book, I'll be so honest. The only thing that kept me going was the sapphic subtext between the main 2 girls, which like, other than that, it wasn't all that interesting. I found I think it was a translator's note, maybe. I found that to be more exciting, more interesting than the rest of the book, because they talked about like, it said something about Sailor Moon and how like only like women can save themselves or something like that, or how like only women are given the responsibility to save themselves and save each other, I think. And then there's also a message about global warming in that. And I just thought the rest of the book was boring. So yeah, that's A Magical Girl Retires. I read it because I saw the gorgeous cover. I love the cover. I saw it in the bookstore and I was like, I really want to read that. So I got out my Kindle and I read most of it sitting on an airplane, and I was just like, okay. Not much to hold on to there. So yeah, moving on from that is one of the books I talked about in my last video. It's a graphic memoir that I read in Spanish. That's Virus Tropical by Power Paola. This is about the author's like childhood and adolescent years, like in the creation of her identity. which includes moving from Ecuador to Colombia. And I read, like I said, I read a ton of other graphic memoirs this year, and this one just didn't really stand out. Aside from the fact that it was in Spanish and I read it in Spanish, but otherwise it was kind of whatever. Next is another graphic memoir, 100 Demons by Lynda Barry. I also talked about this in my last video. I don't remember a whole lot about this. I thought it was good, and that was kind of it. It didn't blow me away or anything. Yeah, like I generally have like so few thoughts on these bottom books. 100 Demons is also about not like just following the author through like the first 18 years of her life. It's more about like certain experiences she had, or like things that she feels like emotionally like tied to, or like she regrets or is embarrassed of or something. Next is Red by Michael Nicole Yagolanas. This is a piece of indigenous comics that I read for one of my comic studies classes. It was, again, as I said in my previous video, the narrative was kind of fine. It wasn't super new, but like the book itself as an object was really interesting because it's a cut up mural of Haida art. Haida is an indigenous community off the west coast of Canada, like near Vancouver, I think. I looked it up and I already forgot. Yeah, I thought Red was interesting as an object, as a reading experience, but as a story it was kind of whatever. And the last book in this category is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. This is like a YA, sort of like supernatural mystery fantasy romance thing. I read this in March. Yeah, because I read it over spring break. I have an asterisk next to this in my list because I actually have very strong opinions on this book, but they're not all great. I gave this like a 3.5, I think. It's a Peter Pan retelling, which I somehow didn't know going in, but I picked up on it literally on the first page. It's about this girl named Wendy, right? Yeah, obviously her name's fucking Wendy. It's a Peter Pan retelling. She lives in Astoria, Oregon, which is on the northern coast of Oregon. In the like before the book takes place, her two brothers, God knows I can't remember their names. One of them's Michael. I can't remember what the other one is. I haven't seen the animated Peter Pan either, so there's that. They went missing, or they died. That's spoilers. And Wendy meets Peter Pan in the woods, and they sort of team up, and he promises to help her like find her brothers and stuff. It was kind of whatever. It wasn't the best written. I thought the pacing was really slow. The mystery took a really long time to like get anywhere. Wendy as a character was sort of bland and insufferable just by the fact that she was crying like every other chapter, which like is fine, you know, girl, be in touch with your emotions, but like I don't need to hear about you having another breakdown, I'll be honest. Peter Pan's also sort of nondescript. He's just golden retriever lover boy. The mystery, the reveal at the end is crazy and a little stupid. It's so rushed. The ending is so rushed. The villain is cliche, says delicious too many times. And the most aggravating thing about this book, I did enjoy it for the most part. Like I read it in like 1 or 2 days while I was at the beach. So like it was fun. I like flew through it because I was curious about like where the plot would go and things. But the most infuriating thing about this book is that it takes place, I don't know why I'm fully just repeating my thoughts that I said in that video. A thing that aggravated me so much about that book is that it does take place in the summer, but it takes place on the Oregon coast. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Oregon coast or not. It like never gets above like 75, I'll be honest. I've never been there when it's over 75. But like the book describes it as if it's like 90 degrees, which is like common in Portland and everywhere else, like east of the coast range. But like it just pissed me off every time the Oregon coast and Astoria was described as being super hot. That just like pissed me off to no end. Maybe because I read it while I was on the Oregon coast and it was like 40 or 50 degrees. But also it was March, not June or July. So Lost in the Neverwoods, It was fine. It wasn't terrible. I had a good time reading it, but I just had, like, as I said, I just kind of articulated everything I didn't like about it, and it was just kind of whatever. So that's the adequate amount of words tier. So now it's time to move on to the plenty of good words, meaning all the 4 stars. But all the regular 4 stars, not the shiny 4 stars. Those come later. The first book in this 4-star category is a book I read for school in the winter. That's Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is basically sort of like an Arthurian legend. I mean, it's not about King Arthur at all, but Gawain is one of King Arthur's knights, and he takes up this bargain with this Green Knight, this giant guy that rolls into the court of Camelot and is like, oh, I can summarize this. Really, I can. I mean, Gawain basically steps up to the plate when none of the other knights will take up the Green Knight's challenge of harming him and allowing him to do the same harm to them. So Gawain beheads the knight, the Green Knight, and the Green Knight just picks his head back up and is like, in 1 year and 1 day, you need to find me and you will accept this equal punishment that I will give to you. And I just really enjoyed reading this, honestly. It's in poem. It's in poem? It's in verse. That's the right word. It's in verse. It's translated from the Old English or whatever by Simon Armitage. I just really liked his translation. It keeps the like fun, playful air of like rhythm and repetition and like just lush descriptions and stuff. And like, I just think I think the story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is an interesting one and it's fun. So yeah, that I enjoyed it so much I gave it like 4 stars. Next is The Arrival by Sean Tan. This is a graphic novel that I read this fall. That is it's a comic that doesn't have any words, it's all pictures, and it's basically I didn't say this in my last video, but sort of like a rose-colored depiction of immigration, where like you show up and like you make mistakes because you don't know the language, but then people help you and whatever, it's a lot easier. But it's like a fantasy thing where there's like these weird creatures and monsters and whatever. It had some beautiful artwork. I really enjoyed reading it. It was super fun. So yeah, The Arrival by Sean Tan. It's just a really beautiful work of art, honestly. It's really pretty and I enjoyed it. Next is not the first book that I finished last year. Anyway, that book is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the 5th season Broken Earth trilogy. This is my favorite fantasy series. I love it so much. Obelisk Gate was my least favorite of the 3 books. I just thought it was like, compared to like the high action and tension of the first book and the absolute mind-blowingness of the 3rd book, the 2nd book was just kind of like, it was like an interlude. Not that it was like chill or calm or anything, but I just didn't like it as much. It also took me like over a month. It like took me a month to read, which is embarrassing. I can like normally read a book in like a week or 2. The Obelisk Gate just took me so long. And maybe I would have enjoyed it more if I had read it faster. I can't really tell you what it's about because it's a sequel, other than the 5th season is one of the best fantasy series ever written, and you should read it. It's incredible, incredible work. I love it so much. Next on the list is a book I read in my winter term again. That is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This was the 2nd time I had read it, and I'm actually going to read it again this coming term. I love that I will have read this every year of college so far, which is good. I really like Frankenstein. I've always liked it. I'm especially excited to read it again after having seen the Guillermo del Toro adaptation. I have such mixed opinions on that. I thought it was great. I also thought it missed the point. I think a woman should direct the next big adaptation of Frankenstein. I think that would probably be the best. That's my opinion. I'm supposed to be talking about Frankenstein the book. Frankenstein the book is awesome. It's great. I mean, you probably know what Frankenstein's about. So this guy, Victor Frankenstein, he creates this being that's composed of parts of dead people. He brings it to life, and in the book, he is scared shitless of it, and he runs away from it, and he abandons it immediately. And the creature just has to kind of fend for himself, and Guys, I have so many mixed feelings on the movie. I don't really want to talk about it just because so many people are talking about it, and it's like, it's just fully my opinion and whatever, but it's like, whatever. Frankenstein as a book, I love it. It's really good, and I'm excited to read it for a third time. If I read it again in my senior year, I think that's going to be awesome. Because one, already Frankenstein's going to be the book that I've read the most. This will be my third time reading it. And if I read it in my fourth year, I think that'd be really funny. Because I would have read it every single year of college. And what's also funny about it is that my mom also read Frankenstein a lot in college. But she always sold back her copy at the end of the term. And I've read the same copy twice. Will be a third time. I have to somehow figure out how to differentiate my annotations for the third reading, but whatever. But also, I never sell back my books. I should, but I like to hold on to things too much, so I spent a long time talking about that. Frankenstein, if you haven't read it, you should, especially if you liked the movie, the Del Toro movie. I think reading the book could also give you a new appreciation to see, like, what changes were made and what the original source materials has to say. Next is a YA fantasy that I read in Spain. I actually studied abroad in Spain this summer. It was awesome. I had so much fun. And I actually read quite a few books while I was there. I was surprised. This book is Sorcery of Thorns by... what's her name? Margaret Rogerson. I knew it was something Sun. Margaret Rogerson. I had a blast reading this. It was super fun. It reminded me a lot of just like YA fantasy that I read in like middle school. I had a lot of fun. Sorcery of Thorns is about this girl named Elizabeth. Oh, okay, how do I describe this? Her job is basically to protect these magical grimoires, these magical books. I loved the like grimoires and how they functioned. I thought it was super cool. They all had like personalities and functions, and it was really cool. She makes some sort of mistake as like a test. She has to help this magician guy Nathaniel with something. It's actually kind of sad how little I remember. I just had a lot of fun reading it. Nathaniel has like a servant named Silas that's he's a fun character. I like Silas. And especially Silas's dynamic with Nathaniel. I thought it was great. Yeah, now that I'm talking about it, I actually don't remember a whole lot from this book. I just had a lot of fun reading it. It was a super fun thing to read. I guess that's all I have to say about it since I don't remember anything else. Actually, straight up, what did I write in my Goodreads review? Oh yeah, Elizabeth has sort of been like raised to think like magic is different from like the books that she guards and stuff, or like magic should really only belong to the books, and she's just sort of prejudiced against people who do actually have and use magic. And honestly, a big part of the book is her like unlearning that prejudice and being like, okay, I guess not all magic is evil, especially when she has to use it. And yeah, she just like discovers the world outside of like the small contained area that she lived in. And yeah, Elizabeth was sort of boring. She doesn't stand out as a YA female protagonist, but who cares, right? Next is a book I read in September. Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. This is a adult literary fiction. I wanted to enjoy this more. People have said this is like a life-changing book. And I read it. I thought it was good, but honestly, it didn't like stick with me very much. What is the main character's name? Cyrus, that's his name. Cyrus. He was born in Iran, but he currently lives in the US. Okay, let me do a slightly better job explaining this. The whole reason this book is called Martyr is because Cyrus believes that his mother died in a plane crash that was, well, not just any plane crash. It was a plane that was struck by an airstrike from the US military because they mistook it for like a military plane, I think. And so Cyrus, as any well-adjusted, super depressed adult, becomes super obsessed with, he's also a poet, and he's like super lost. He's graduated college already at the like main storyline of the book. He becomes obsessed with the idea of being a martyr and like having your death mean something, and he's a super burnt out artist, and he finds out about this Iranian artist who's dying of cancer or something, And as like an interactive art exhibit, basically, she's living in this museum in New York, the Brooklyn Museum. Cyrus's friends convince him, well, hey, if you're so obsessed with martyrs and death, go talk to that lady, especially since she's Iranian and whatever. Yeah, I wanted to enjoy this more, but like it didn't really stick with me. I feel like I did learn some things about Iran. There are chapters from like Cyrus's point of view. There's some excerpts from this book that he's writing about martyrs. There's POVs from like his mother when she was younger and still alive. Her brother who served in the war or in the military. Maybe some from his dad, I can't remember. I wanted it to blow me away, and it was good, don't get me wrong, and it's just sort of, it was good, and that's kind of it. I'm really sorry, I know a lot of people really love this book, but it just, yeah, it was sort of all over the place. Lots of emotion, vivid description, sometimes too many references to pop culture and modern day culture, which, like, is fully just a, like, subjective personal thing if you like those or not, but, like, the references to pop culture was important to like situate the story in our current modern world. But yeah, that's Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. It was good, and that's it. Next is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is a 600-page horror manga that I read for a comic studies class this fall. It's weird, it's freaky, it's Junji Ito, about what I expected. This was my first Junji Ito that I've read. I really enjoyed it, I had a lot of fun reading it. It's basically about this small coastal town in Japan and this girl named Kiri, and just like the weird stuff that starts happening in this town and to the people around her. All thanks to the spiral, like the shape of the spiral and whatever, and how it just like things spiral, they go out of control and it gets crazy. It was good, I enjoyed reading it. Definitely some weird stuff in there. Looking at the mosquito chapter, that was weird. That was probably the most poignant, scarring one. Mosquitoes. Yeah, Uzumaki. It was great. I really enjoyed it. Next is another book I read for a comic studies class. That's March, book 1 by John Lewis. This is a graphic memoir, autobiography, nonfiction about the like first like 18 years, I'd say, of civil rights activist and Georgia State Representative John Lewis. May he rest in peace. I think he's dead. Yeah. Oh, he died in 2020. I forgot about that. This is about John Lewis's like rise to becoming involved in civil rights activism and his role in the nonviolent lunch counter sit-ins in, I remember what city. Nashville, and the Nashville student movement. Yeah, this is the first book in a trilogy about his life and activism and sort of like his history. I really enjoyed March. I thought it was beautiful art. It was great storytelling. You learn a small piece of civil rights history, which is good. Yeah, just a digestible way to learn some pivotal parts of civil rights history. So there's that. That's March, book 1. I might read the other 2 at some point because I'm interested. Next is Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. This is a graphic memoir about Satrapi, who is a woman from Iran. So I actually learned quite a bit about Iran this year, which was nice. It's about her coming of age during the Islamic Revolution, the like oppressive religious government in Iran, and then the war with Iraq. I did a way better job summarizing this in my last video, Jesus. Yeah, and then she moves to Vienna for her high school years, which is certainly an experience for her. And it's like about her like discovering herself and like becoming her own person within and outside of her family. Yeah, I give it 4 stars. I feel like I learned quite a bit about Iran and everything going on there. And it's also like, it's a very like personalized experience, but like a huge theme in the book is about like war and national identity. And I thought that was really interesting. I have a whole bit in my last video about how like the different like covers from the various printings market the book as different things, but I'm not going to go on that rant now. You can watch that video to check that out. Next in this list, we're almost to the end of this category. Okay, we're getting there. And that's Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. This is another graphic memoir. Like I said, I've read a ton of memoirs this year. I think memoir, according to Storygraph, memoir is my top read genre this year, tied with fantasy, which is just fun. Cool. Definitely a new thing. I read my first 2 ever memoirs last year, and now I've read like 8 more. Not 8, like 6 more. Fun Home, right? That's what I'm talking about. It's about Alison Bechdel, her relationship, her estranged relationship with her father, and their like individual queer identities and queer experience and stuff. Sort of about like family troubles, family trauma, having weird associations with your childhood home. I enjoyed it. It was the first book we read in the class that I read Persepolis for. I don't have much else to say about Fun Home, but I thought it was an interesting exploration of like queer identity, especially in like the 80s and 90s, because I think Bechdel might have been in college in the 90s or in the 80s or something. It's interesting. I enjoyed it. The last book in this category, the Plenty of Good Words 4 stars category, is a book I read in May. I think it was May. I read it so fast. I had such a good time reading this. That is, hold on, I need to find the author because I don't remember. That is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is like a Regency era sort of like fantasy romance thing. I just thought it was super sweet. It's short. It's about this girl named, not Nora, Dora, Theodora, and she was cursed by a fairy as a kid, so like she lost half of her soul, so she's quite like emotionless and sort of like reserved, and all the other Regency girls find her weird except for her cousin, who like will fight to the ends of the earth for her. I love it. Dora goes into the city for the season. I think, is that just what it's called? The season? Where young women go into the city, they go to a lot of debutante balls or whatever, and they find their romantic matches, I think. Dora meets this guy named Elias, I think his name is. He's like a magician. I don't remember a whole lot of other plot other than that. Dora and Elias are sort of... Oh, I know. Dora sort of enlists Elias to help her get her soul back so that she has a chance of being normal. Because there's like a big theme in this book is about like what it's like being different, and not in like a cute, quirky way, and like a way where people don't like you and like they disrespect you and bully you, and like you're sort of abused by your fuck ass aunt. I hate the aunt in this book. She's a bitch. And like just also like helping others. It was super sweet. I really enjoyed reading it. It was a lot of fun. I thought Dora and Elias were like super endearing characters, both individually and as a couple. Like their romance is really cute, and I just had a lot of fun. That's Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. And that's the end of the Plenty of Good Words 4-star category. Now we're moving into the second to top category. This is the extra words of praise. These are still 4 stars, but they're shiny 4 stars, remember. Not the regular 4 stars. They're like, and I guess maybe they're more like 4.25 if you want to be technical about it. Yeah, these are books that I still just gave them 4 stars, but they stood out above the other books. The like millions of other books I rated 4 stars this year. So the first of these books is the highest rated book on Goodreads that I read this year, according to my end of year wrap up thingy that Goodreads does. That book is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This is a new Hunger Games prequel. It came out in April. This is again a prequel in the Hunger Games universe, and it follows the games of Haymitch. It's the 50th Hunger Games. It's the second quarter quell in which they reap double the amount of tributes. So instead of each district having 1 boy and 1 girl, they have 2 boys and 2 girls. So there's 48 tributes compared to the usual 24. I mean, people will tell you it's emotionally devastating. It didn't fully devastate me, but like it's hard for me to get like that emotionally invested. I like almost never cry at books. If I could have, I probably would have, but I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this more than Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Kill me, sue me. I like Sunrise on the Reaping better. Maybe it's just because I don't have to follow Coriolanus Snow's fucking thoughts. Thank God that book was in 3rd person though, not 1st. Jesus Christ. Anyway, Sunrise on the Reaping. It felt a lot like the first Hunger Games book, which is just fun. It's also interesting to compare Haymitch's narration versus Katniss's, because Katniss is sort of like doom and gloom from the very beginning, whereas Haymitch is like hopeful. He has this like lover girl back in town, back in District 12 that he loves, and that he's like, I need to survive for her. Then he's sort of like roped in the rebellion that Katniss like ignites in the main series is like, it's been like they've been trying to get it started for a while, and they tried to. Haymitch was originally supposed to be the girl on fire. But he, okay, I guess that's spoilers, but also it's sort of not spoilers because obviously he fails to start a revolution because things are still the status quo when Katniss comes along. But anyway, it's just Haymitch's games. It's a decent amount of fan service. I'm not disagreeing with the people who say it's a lot of fan service, because there's like most of the cast, except for like the other tributes, obviously, a lot of the other cast is just characters from like Catching Fire, or just like other characters we know from the main trilogy, but like it's just them 25 years younger. But I enjoyed that. So I thought it was a little heavy-handed compared to some of the other Hunger Games books. There was a big theme about propaganda, how like propaganda alters what you believe, because in Catching Fire, Katniss and Peeta watch like the recap of Haymitch's games, but then like in this book you see how like actually really different the games were, his real games were versus what they show in the Capitol. That was sort of I was a little distracted from that theme by the fact that multiple times people are saying to Haymitch's face, no more submission, you need to stand up, or no more implicit submission. I was like, okay. A little heavy-handed. I apparently didn't love Haymitch's voice until they got to the arena because he's talked too casually and it seemed like there weren't enough stakes, but also like that just kind of matches more with his character, I guess. I enjoyed it. I was not devastated by it like many people, but I still enjoyed Sunrise on the Reaping. I thought it was a good, worthy addition to the Hunger Games universe, and I'm quite excited for the movie that will come out. I was gonna say next year, but it's actually this year. I mean, it's in 10 months, 10 and a half months, but you know. That is Sunrise on the Reaping. Next is a book that I read also in July. I think I read it in Spain too. That book is Most Ardently by Gabe Cole Novoa, I think is their name. Gabe Cole Novoa. That's right, that's what I said. Most Ardently is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. I haven't read the original Pride and Prejudice, but it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling, except Elizabeth, that's her name, right? The main girl is actually a trans boy named Oliver. I thought it was super sweet. I really enjoyed it. I thought the writing was really good, especially in the moments where like Oliver's being misgendered or dead named, or he's like just experiencing such suffocating dysphoria. The writing is done in such a way where you also feel like you're being suffocated, and I was so uncomfortable in certain scenes, which just means it was really well done. Yeah, I read this super fast. I had a really good time reading it. It's actually quite emotional. It's technically a romance, but like that's not really the most important thing. Like the main story is about Oliver like feeling seen and like feeling comfortable as himself, and just sort of finding like love and community in Darcy and whoever Darcy's friend is. I can't remember his name. Yeah, Oliver's pain and discomfort was like super palpable, that I felt it too. But the same goes for like his euphoria and his joy when he is like accepted, or when he gets to like free, like when he gets to be himself. It's super good. But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Most Ardently. Man, I'm doing a bad job with these. I'm now relying too much on my Goodreads reviews, because many of the books I read over the summer, like I said, I never like talked about them on the channel or anything. And I have no notes prepped for this. I just have a list and that's literally it. The idea of doing notes for all these was too daunting, and like I have a brain, I have a memory, so I was just gonna go off of that. The next book I read in basically one day. Okay, well that's not true. I read like most of it on the train in Spain back to Madrid so I could fly home. That is You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. This was I really enjoyed this. I flew through it. I was like addicted to it. I started reading it on like a 3-hour train ride from northern Spain to Madrid. My study abroad program was in northern Spain. Guys, if you have a chance to go to Asturias, it's gorgeous. I love it. You should check it out. It's not as suffocatingly hot as Madrid is, because when I was there, it was like 100 degrees 3 days in a row and it sucked balls. Madrid's a beautiful city though. I loved it. You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian is a historical romance. It's set in the 50s, or it might be set in 1960. The main character, there's two main characters. We have Mike, who's a reporter, and he's tasked with helping write like profiles or diaries or something for this new addition to the baseball team in town named Eddie. He came from, I think he had been in Major League, but then he has like a reactive temper, and so he was kicked out of his last team in the Major League, and so he's put down in minor league. I think he's moved to this minor league team. No one likes him. He doesn't like anyone. But also Eddie's just like so sweet, and he's like so insecure, and he's just sort of lost himself, and he just wants to like find his potential again. And Mike sort of like befriends him, or not really. Mike does not like sports. He's sort of like a whatever. Okay, like to speed things up, they fall in love and they have a really sweet romance and relationship, and how they like sort of like one important part about Mike's character is that his last partner, whose name I don't remember, he died from something. I feel like it was an illness of some kind. I don't think he was like killed. I think he like died of natural causes. Mike's still grieving, and he like does not want to be with anyone, and he just kind of refuses to move on. And he and Eddie just form like a special bond of like how to like treat themselves with kindness. I had so much fun reading this. I like plowed through most of it in a day. I had to force myself to stop reading at like 8:30 in my hotel room so that I could go down the street to Burger King and get dinner. I enjoyed the first half more than the second half. The second half just becomes kind of repetitive with sex and having the same conversation over and over again. But like the tension and the yearning in the first part was so good. Shout out to Carrie Can Read for talking about this book, and Cat Sebastian, and just raving about it. And that's why I read this book. And yeah, it's a banger. It's really good. It's also quite sad at some points. It's good. I really like it. Next in this 4+ star category is not my most recent read. It's my second to most recent read. I read this at the start of my winter break. That is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is like a highly acclaimed, super popular sci-fi novella. It's like super short. I read it all basically in one night. I loved it. It's book 1 in the Murderbot Diaries, which is like a series of little novellas about this robot, except you find out pretty quickly that actually it's not fully robot. It's sort of a cyborg, because they are partially human, which I did not expect. It made parts of it really sad. That named itself Murderbot, and it's been hired to like protect this group of researchers on this planet. I think they're just doing like just surveys of the land and the animals and the flora and stuff. Murderbot has such a funny narration. It's a really fun book, but it's also quite violent and tense too. The main like conflict is that there's this team, and there's this other team of scientists elsewhere on the planet that they know are there, but then like their like communications like are cut off, and they go there and they find that everyone there is dead, like just destroyed. This like rogue murder bots, and like, is there maybe other people here? And actually, for it being like so short, for it being 150 pages, it's incredibly tense, action packed. There's a lot of character development and relationship building. Because at first Murderbot does not like people. He like avoids them at all costs, and he just wants to like sit in his room, or he, because it's an it, not given pronouns. It's actually cool that like you don't know really what they look like. I mean, it is a first person narrator, so it's like a little harder to get like description of what they look like. Also, the whole reason this sort of happens is that Murderbot found a way to like sort of like turn off its like coding thing that like would force it to follow commands. And so for the first bit, it's sort of like just trying to like masquerade as being normal, but then like when they're when it's alone, it's just like it's like downloaded a ton of like soap operas and stuff, and it just like sits in its room and just like watches TV. It's really funny. And then Murderbot learns to care about the humans, and the humans learn to see it as a person too. And it's just super sweet. I really enjoyed it. I would love to read more books in the series since they're all short. That's All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I had a lot of fun reading it, and it was really good. 2 more left in this, which are actually sort of similar. The next book is a historical fiction that I read in February or March. I know I read it in the winter because it's a winter book. That's To the Bright Edge of the World by Eowyn Ivey. This is a historical fiction told in the epistolary format, so it's through like letters and diary entries mostly, but also like newspaper clippings and whatever. It follows like this couple. Sophie is the wife. Adam, I think, is the name of the... I mean, he's mostly referred to as like colonel or sergeant, whatever his last name is. I can't remember. He's sent on an expedition with 2 other men in the army to Alaska to sort of map like the Yukon Valley, I think. Or no, the Wolverine River, not the Yukon. The Wolverine River and like that sort of valley, because it takes place in like the 1800s. I can't remember what year exactly. But like it hasn't been charted on like American maps, so they're like, okay, you guys go out there, survey it, don't die, be nice to the indigenous people. Or I don't know if they're told that, but they are nice to the indigenous people there, especially since they like saved their lives on multiple occasions. At the same time, his wife Sophie is back on the army base in Vancouver, Washington. She picks up this, she has like a super fascination with birds, and she learns how to use a camera and take pictures of birds. It was beautiful writing. I loved it. I thought it was just gorgeous. Heartbreaking at times. Oh my god. Even though it's like mostly just strictly told through the points of view of those 2 characters, Adam and Sophie, there's like other characters around them that you sort of get attached to, and it's just really good. I liked it a lot. A very wintry, cold book. Same goes for this next book, which is my most recent read of 2025. That's Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I think this is quite a well-beloved, like, sort of fantasy. I was expecting more romance. There's not much romance. It's mostly a historical fantasy. It takes place in 1909, I believe. Emily Wilde is a professor of Deiridology. She studies fairies, and she's been working for like the last like 9 years or something on creating this encyclopedia of fairies, obviously. And she's like almost done. She just has 1 more chapter left that she needs to like research and write. And that involves her going to this northern Scandinavian island. It's basically Iceland. It's a made-up island, but it's basically Iceland, which was super fun for me because in my fall term of freshman year, I took a Vikings literature class. So it's just like, it felt like for the first bit, I was like, oh, I love when random knowledge that I get from school comes in handy. Like, I know what a Gothi is. I know what you call the leader of like an Icelandic village, a Gothi. I know what that is. It was super cool. I really liked that at the beginning. This is written in the form of journal entries from Emily. And she's like, it's a little rough for her out there. She doesn't really know how to survive on her own. She's with this big ass dog called Shadow. Yeah, she's there to investigate the Hidden Ones, which is this island's fae that are quite elusive, also quite dangerous and violent. I adored the first half of this book. It was super atmospheric, and eventually, like, not super far into the book, maybe like 10-20%, Emily's colleague and like her only friend. Oh my god. Did I forget what his name is? No way. No way I forgot what his name is. Gang, what's his first name? Why can't I remember? Wendell. God, that's his name. Her like colleague and like only friend who she's like sort of like eternally bothered by is Wendell Bambleby. He shows up to sort of help her with her research. And I just really love their dynamic. They have a super good banter and just rapport, I guess. And Emily, who's normally like strictly like dedicated to her research, she sort of like learns to like care about the, like, she starts to love like the people of the village that she's in. The second half, I will admit, it didn't lose me a little. It's a pretty simple plot, but it just becomes a lot more of like the basic like fae fantasy plot where you end up trapped in the fairy realm and like a bunch of time goes by, and it's basically, it reminded me a lot of that one bit in, I think it's Wicked King, the second book in the Cruel Prince series, the one where Jude is just held captive in one of the fairy like kingdoms for a while, and it's just sort of boring, repetitive, and I was like, oh, I missed the part when you guys were just sort of tromping around and investigating stuff and before we actually met the hidden ones. But it was really sweet. I really enjoyed it. It was such a perfect winter read. It's so cold and snowy. It's so Icelandic, even if it technically isn't Iceland. It is a fictional place. But like, they have very Scandinavian Icelandic names. I love that. Again, just an appreciation I have from taking a Vikings literature class before. I'm interested in reading the other books in the series, honestly. I thought Emily and Wendell were super endearing characters. I liked them a lot. It was fun to read about them. I was kind of hoping for a little more romance between them, but also was like, Emily's just absolutely oblivious to the fact that that guy is definitely in love with her. Like, from the jump, he is. But, like, she can't tell. I love it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Honestly, it might have been more of a 5-star until I got to the second half, and I was just kind of like, oh, it's a little boring. But I loved the first half. So yeah, that's that. And now it's time for the last category. 2 words. Marry me. My top 5 favorite books I read this year. Maybe honestly not my favorites. They're the highest rated books I read this year. So maybe my ranking's actually sort of wrong, but let's get into it, shall we? The first book in this top winning favorite category is actually a book I read for school. That's The Best We Could Do by Thi Bui. This is a graphic memoir about Bui and her family's escape from Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and also just, not just that, but it's also like her parents' lives before that, when her and her siblings were all really young, and then also like what it was like. Actually, I don't think it touches all that much on what it's like being in America. It's more about like the journey they went on as refugees, escaping Vietnam. I thought The Best We Could Do was a beautiful memoir. I really liked the writing. I loved the art. It was beautiful. I just really enjoyed it. And I thought it just, like, it deserves to be up here at the top. I thought it was super good. Okay, apparently I don't have much to say about that. I thought The Best We Could Do was incredible. So yeah, that got 4.5 stars. Next book in this group is It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth by Zoe Thorogood. I also read this for class. I also gave it 4.5 stars. It's also a graphic memoir, but it's about a period of the artist's life where she is like super depressed. She gives herself 6 months to sort of like survive and not kill herself and write this book, like the one that you're reading. I fucking loved this. I fucked with this book so hard. I loved the writing. It's sort of like witty, self-deprecating, obviously a little depressing. It's also funny. The art style, I think, was my favorite thing, though. It was super experimental. There's lots of different art styles in here. It sort of goes all over the place. I just thought it was like super poignant, and I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It was an awesome reading experience. Like just turning the page and being like, ooh, a new art style. That's a gorgeous image. I loved it, okay? I loved it. It is crazy that 2 of my 5 top books I read this year were for school, but like they were super good, so whatever. The next 4.5 star is, when did I read this? April? Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a sci-fi about this guy who wakes up from a coma, and he's like, he can't remember anything. He's on this spaceship millions of light years away from Earth. His crew is dead. He's the only one alive. He doesn't remember who he is, why he's here, anything. And honestly, you shouldn't know much more than that. I went into this knowing basically nothing other than people are like, it's an incredible science fiction and you gotta read it. Project Hail Mary, it was so good. I really liked Ryland, that's the main character. I really liked his voice. He was super funny and like charismatic in a way. He eventually remembers like, oh, I'm a scientist. I'm like here to investigate this phenomenon that's happening and trying to find a way to fix it. That's why I'm out here in the dead middle of space, so far from home, in a ship that doesn't seem to have windows. It just has cameras. Anyway, yeah, because it is a sci-fi, there is a lot of science in it, but it's honestly pretty digestible. And also I've taken, I mean, my 2 astronomy classes that I've taken didn't do that much, but like they did something. I was able to understand some things and it was just super cool. It gets really emotional and tense in like the middle and the end. The movie better be fucking good. If it's bad, I'm gonna be upset. It's by the same screenwriter who did The Martian, which I watched this fall, but I haven't read The Martian. It's literally right here behind me. I haven't read The Martian yet. I will at some point. I would really like to read it. Honestly, maybe I should take it back to school with me so that I read it. But anyway, if that same screenwriter can pull off Project Hail Mary and bring in the emotion with that, oh boy, there's a chance I could be crying in that movie theater, man. And the CGI also has to be good. Damn, the CGI has to be good. If the CGI is bad, I'm gonna be upset. That's Project Hail Mary. I thought it was incredible. I had so much fun reading it. Like, yeah, you just start out having a good time and then it just gets emotional and then you're like, fuck. Those are the 4.5s. There are only 2 books that I gave 5 stars this year. I'm for some reason quite sparing with 5 stars, but also there weren't that many things that like blew me away. Even though like It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth did blow me away, but apparently not enough to get it 5 stars. Anyway, the 2 5 stars. The first one I'm going to tell you about is The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemisin. This is the 3rd book and the finale of the 5th season's trilogy. It was so good. The Stone Sky was so, like I said earlier when I was talking about Obelisk Gate, like the first book is super high action and it's tense. This 3rd book, The Stone Sky, is just heavy, emotional. You get so much more world building with one of the new POVs. It's so interesting. You learn, like, okay, hold on. I need to look at my notes from when I read this because, like, it was so good. It was worth everything. It was, like, some of the best payoff ever. Like, it's not a happy ending, but it is so well done. And it's also kind of the only ending that could have happened. Right, the super strong themes in this were primarily about colonization because you learn about, like, a past civilization, basically. Like, hundreds of years in the past, you learn about what was going on back then and how they were actually more advanced back then than they are now. Like, one of my favorite things about the 5th season and its world is just how deep and rich the history is, and this book gives you so much more about the world, and it's so good. Guys, you need to read the 5th season, okay? If you like fantasy, if you want a high dense fantasy, you need to read the 5th season, all right? It takes some getting used to because one of the points of view is 2nd person, but that's partially why I love it so much. And then, and this book has 1st person for the first time. Stone Sky does, with one of the points of view, and then it's like, oh, you start to figure out who that 1st person point of view is, and then you're like, wait, this is actually sort of the person who's been telling the story the entire time. That is maybe spoilers, but it's so good. Oh my god. It's so rich and heavy with emotions. It's amazing. Just the reveals and the way that the plot wraps up and everything, it sort of like unravels. It's so good. I love it. read. Please read The Stone Sky. Or not, I mean, The Stone Sky is the last book, so obviously you kind of need to read the other two first. But the 5th season is, I think, the best fantasy series I have absolutely ever read. Last book. My favorite book of the year. So incredible. Oh my. Oh my. Most different book, too. This is like the most, well, Martyr was also quite literary, but this is like, I read this before Martyr, so this was like very literary. But that is Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. This is a queer coming of age story about this girl in Ireland in the 80s. I think it's the 80s. But it's about so much more than just like being gay and realizing that. It's about religion, belonging, female friendships, mother-daughter relationships, self-love, just the messiness of your first sapphic love, societal expectations, and it's just some of the most beautiful writing I've ever read. It's so rich with emotion. It's so tender. It's such like it just captures the sapphic experience and like the angst and whatever in a way that was just so like good and real, and it's messy. And like, I initially gave this 4.5 stars instead of 5. I said in my notes, I was like, it's a little too lit fic, but like there's not enough like actual confrontational conversations. But also like, I also think that's the most like realistic. It's like, I wanted Lucy, the main character, to just like sort of break and just scream at all these people who are telling her to do these things with her life that she doesn't want to do. But the fact that that doesn't happen, I realize now, is quite like realistic. And it's like, especially like given her character where she's just such like a people pleaser and whatever. But it was just so beautiful. And like, the main reason I changed it to 5 stars is that I thought about it so much. I like, most books, I sort of like stop thinking about them after a couple days. Sunburn, I was just thinking about it all the time. I also recommended it to one of the people on my study abroad trip, and she read it and she loved it. And like, I like almost never, well, no, I recommend books to people, but rarely do people actually read them. And just like, she loved it. She gave it 5 stars, and I was like, yes, I'm very proud that I recommended such a good sapphic book to somebody. Who did I hear about this from? I think I heard about this book from Georgia May Reads, who primarily reads just a lot of like gay fiction. A shout out to her for this, because oh my god, the writing, this was like such an incredible book. I honestly, like, in my mind, it's not one of my like top favorites. You know, people often ask, like, what are your favorite books? Like, this might not come into my mind, but it was my favorite book from 2025. It was just so beautiful. I have so many, for some reason, I couldn't read it on my Kindle. Like, there wasn't an option to read it through Kindle, so I was just reading it on my phone in the Libby app, which I don't love doing. But I highlighted so many lines, and I, like, copied down a bunch of the quotes in, like, my notes. Like in my Goodreads review, I included 2 quotes that I feel like sum up the book perfectly, and I want to give them to you here, also to maybe convince you to read it. The first one is, wouldn't it be nice if I could be a person on my own? On my own or of my own? I feel like it's probably of my own. I got the physical book for Christmas. I forced my mom to buy the UK copy because I hate the US copy. Like the cover of the US copy, I hate it. I don't like that it looks like that. But yeah, wouldn't it be nice if I could be a person of my own? And to be with her is a sin, to be without her is a tragedy. It's just so like heartbreaking, and you just watch Lucy grow over like, I don't know how many years it is. I think it's mostly just like high school and then into college. Except I don't think she goes to college. She just like leaves town and like sort of finds herself finally in the city. And she has like experiences that she's not allowed to have in like her small, very Catholic Irish town in the countryside. Sunburn is so good. It's incredible sapphic fiction. Part of me almost wants to reread it so that I can like actually mark up my new physical copy. It's genuinely is some of the most beautiful, thoughtful writing I think I've ever read. Okay, that should, God, if I accidentally skipped a book, I'm gonna be really sad. No, I didn't. That's it. Marry me to those, is what I would say to those books. To Sunburn and Stone Sky. I had a really great reading year this year. I'm super proud of myself for reading 31 books. Even though, like I said, half of them were for school. And this coming term, I only have like 3 books I have to read, one of which is Frankenstein. Really excited to read that again. My goal for 2026 is to read 30 books again. I just want to read more because I read a lot over the summer. I read a lot last summer too in 2024, but I really enjoy reading and I want to read more, you know. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for a year in the book lab. This will be a year since I posted my first video. Caitlin posted 2 videos before I did. I really enjoyed doing this. I look forward to continue doing it. Happy New Year. Here's to 2026 and to reading. Thank you so much for stopping by the book lab. I've been your book lab partner, Anna. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.